It's time for the Coach Chad Leapart Show. Joining Coach Leapart, as always, is your host, Will M. Jackson, and a special guest from the coaching staff. The Coach Leapart Show is brought to you every week during the football season by the Gilbert Football Network. If you are interested in sponsoring the Coach Leapart Show, please email us at gilbertfootballradio@gmail.com to get a copy of our sponsorship levels. 75% of all advertising dollars will go back to the Gilbert football programs. And now, here is Coach Leapart and Will.
Good evening, Gilbert fans. It's Will Jackson here with Gilbert High School varsity coach Chad Leapart. Also joining this week for our special guest in the coach's spotlight will be Coach Gary Adams, the Gilbert's D-line coach. And Coach Adams will step into the Bonify spotlight in our third segment. But Coach, let's look back at last week's game. Your team scored early, and in the second quarter, you scored often. I think you scored your first touchdown with less than 2 minutes gone in the game, and then you scored 3 times in the second quarter inside the last 8 minutes and 30 seconds. So your offense must have been really rolling on Friday.
It was. The guys came out, pretty hot and clicking. I think it was fourth play from scrimmage. Elias Graham Woodbury took it 66 yards to the house, long run. Guys blocked it up well, and he hit it just right. And then we had, we just had some opportunities there to get in the end zone. Had a turnover. Jake Torbert had a turnover, interception to give us a short field, and we just came out taking care of business. We talked all week about this is a business trip, going on the road over to Columbia. Got to get the win to set up the. If we won last week, that guaranteed at least one home playoff game. Set up region championship game that we got coming this week, and the guys took all that to heart and went over there and really came out pretty sharp overall on both sides of the football, and we were able to jump on them. And then offensively, we had probably one of our largest productions this year as far as yardage and points too, for that matter. 55 points. And, I think it was like almost 600 yards of offense.
Well, yeah, Coach. Both your Thunder and Lightning running backs had over 200 yards rushing, and you amassed over 500 total rushing. And you threw the ball. It wasn't quite as balanced as we'd seen a couple weeks before, but you completed 5 passes and 2 of them were touchdowns. You got to like that.
That's right. Well, that's the thing about it. You're having a lot of success running the football, or we were the other night, and Jaden and Elias are averaging like 9-10 yards a carry, so it's kind of hard to not hand them the football. And so we kept handing it to them. But what happens when you have that success is people's defenses come up and they come in, and then sometimes that does allow for some opportunities to take a shot and different things. And we didn't throw for a lot of yards, but like I said, we did get 2 touchdown passes. One, Drake Braddock threw to Matt Edwards, had everybody coming up on a jet sweep, and Matt got behind him, made a really tough catch over the shoulder and adjusting his body in the back of the end zone. And then another one, Crew Morris, little play that we'd put in this week, kind of some in and out motion, threw it back to him. Jaden Allen Hendricks had a good block on the edge for him, and then he did the rest, making some people miss. So 2 really good plays by both those guys. And, our receivers, talking about people like Crew and Matt, and they block a lot. They spend the majority of the game blocking, so it is nice to get them a ball and get them in the end zone every now and then too. And they both took their chances on that the other night.
Well, Coach, you're talking about your wide receivers blocking. When we had Coach Thompson in here a couple weeks ago, that was what he said. If you block, we'll throw you the ball. So I guess they must listen to him well. They springing your running backs. That's obviously that pays off for them. So, Well, Coach, I saw where Elias was nominated for this week's State Player of the Week. I guess it's kind of good they didn't. They could have easily, as you said, nominated both guys.
Yeah,
or could have made both of them players of the week.
That's what was tough is Jaden and Elias both had incredible stat lines, and so Elias is up for the State Player of the Week, and and what we did with our Lake Murray Mosquito, Jaden and Elias, they've had it a bunch, but we went. Did Offensive Player of the Week this week with Crew Morris, who, like we talked about, does a lot of that dirty work blocking for those guys and making things happen. And then when he had the opportunity to catch a ball and make a play, he made a heck of a play and scored for us the other night. he also we put him on defense a little bit, and he had a fumble recovery on defense, so he was kind of all over the place. So he was our Lake Murray Mosquito Offensive Player of the Week, and then our Defensive Player of the Week is a guy that Coach Adams probably going to talk about here in a little bit, and that's Caleb Streesey, defensive end, junior. It's just really come on this year. I think he had stat lines was like 11 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, a sack, a forced fumble, and he's becoming somebody that people's got to account for, and that's good stuff. He's working hard, and so he's our Defensive Player of the Week.
Well, Coach, I noticed Dreer barely got over 100 yards rushing, even though they had 21 points. I'm sure that made the low rushing yards probably had Coach Cagle happy, and I did see where they threw over 200, but I guess being behind, so that's just what's gonna happen when you're behind the 8 ball like they were. They're gonna throw the ball a lot.
Yeah,
some complete, some not.
Yeah, they started to fall behind us and had to throw it a little more, so you had some of that going on. They did hit a big pass on us. There was a big chunk play of that yardage for a touchdown. It was one of the craziest things ever. The receiver caught it, and he got by us. We missed him, and he was gone. And he still had about 40 yards to go, and he dropped the ball. I mean, it was a fumble. I mean, he'd already caught it. He done run a good bit, and then he just drops the ball. But it was like one of those things, the old Sunday bounce right back up to him in full stride. It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And so he didn't even miss a beat. It just bounced off the ground, off the turf over there like a basketball, right back up to him, and kept going, and we couldn't catch him. He was still gone. So that was one of their big chunk plays that we didn't give up. But
it's not round, it's oblong, but it might bounce good one day, and the next day it'll bounce bad.
That's it.
You never know how the ball bounces when it comes to a football.
That's exactly right about a football. And that time, though, its bounce was true.
Well, I'm sure he was glad, but I'm sure he probably knew he was going to take a chewing if that ball got away.
He would have. But we were over there just shaking our heads. Got to be kidding me, is what we were.
That sounds like that crazy play that Carolina had on that fumble recovery at the last week against Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
I heard people say they'd never seen anything like that. Kind of like that play Friday night too. I guess. Yep. And then both of them was within about 1.5 miles, 2 miles of each other.
That's a fact. We were right there.
I guess the ball was just bouncing the right way over in that part of the world last weekend. Well, Coach, before we go on and start talking about the region championship game, there's one thing one person I've noticed the last couple of weeks has been missing, and that's Chance. I haven't seen his name in stat line, and was just wondering, is he hurt? Will he be available for this coming week? I know that he's a big part of the offense, and just hadn't seen his name lately.
Yeah, he's dinged up a little bit, and we go see. He'll be a game time decision.
Well, Chance is a senior, isn't he?
Yeah.
This could be his last. I don't guess it's going to be his last home game at Gilbert America, but it's a big one, so I bet he'll be a game time play decision.
He wants to, so we'll see how everything goes, and then. But yep, we definitely got one more home game next week. So,
ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back after these messages to preview the upcoming Region 5 3A championship with Coach Leapart, and see if we can get a little more insight and see what's going to happen next week or this week. Back here with Coach Leapart. Coach, you and BC finished with the same region record last year, but they were region champions and they beat y'all 35-34. I remember our show after that game last year. I think there were several calls that might have been a little suspect, or a little bit of river rat dealings over there close to the river. Things could have gone differently. Y'all could have been the region champs last year.
Oh, it was a tough game for sure. It was 35-34. Had some calls needed to go our way and didn't. Had some plays needed to go our way and didn't. And so they came out with it. And it was a tough game. But our guys hadn't forgot. We lost a bunch of seniors from last year's team, but we still got a bunch of guys that was also on that field last year, and they remember and they know, and and it'll be a big game. Our guys will be excited to play. Their guys will be excited to play. It's this turning into a rival. Well, it's turning into. I guess it really has been a rivalry now for some years, but it's certainly a rivalry with big game implications, playoff implications, region championship implications, all the good stuff there that you want on a Friday night.
Well, Coach, you must have been reading my script because the next two paragraphs are just about that.
Yeah.
Senior night this week, region championship up for grabs, and you win that, you guaranteed two home games in the playoffs, as long as you win. And like I said, a little bit of a bad taste in your mouth. So I guess this week has not been hard to motivate people this week.
No, it's not. Everybody's, we've been building towards this, and I'm sure they have too, taking it 1 week at a time in region and just chopping wood every week, finding a way, getting it done, building up, leading up to this one. And our guys, they're excited about this. They know this will be, they know they're playing for a championship, and that's what you work hard for. That's what you want to be a part of. That's why you do what you do, and you want to be able to go out and play in a moment like that and make something happen. So definitely our guys are fired up about it, excited about it, and putting in the work this week to be successful.
Well, Coach, remind me, you've been here, this is your
seventh year.
Seventh? I always want to say ninth. I'm trying to make you older than you are. 2016, 2017, Gilbert was region champs. BC was second in one of those years and tied for second, I think, another one. 2021, 2020, BC back in the region. 18 and 19, they were up in 4A.
Yeah.
Came back in 2020 and 2021. Think they won the regions then. So y'all kind of split the region championship when y'all been in the same region over the last 4 years. So besides the playoff implications, is this game, this is like you said, it's kind of a rival game now. You hadn't played them a lot, but region rival. I guess does this mean more to your staff and you as far as a measuring stick of where your team's at and where you're going?
Well, it's going back to the things in 2016. Yep, that was my first year here. We played them for region championship at the end of the season over at their place. They got us that year. Then 2017, we played them. We won the region championship. So yeah, we split those years, and then they went up to 4A. So it was kind of out of sight, out of mind for a couple years, and then. Came back COVID year 2020. They're back in the region. We beat them in 2020 to win the region, and then of course last year they beat us in that 1 point game and they got the region. So it's really the region championship has been either us or them.
That's exactly right.
And so yeah, measuring stick, whatever you want to call it. It's we know them really well. Coach Sharpie and them and what he likes to do on that side of the ball. He knows us really well on the flip side of that. I mean, he knows we've gone at it multiple times now in big games. We've both been at these schools a while now, and I've even coached against him at Swansea. When I was at Swansea, we beat Brooklyn Casey for a region championship in 2014 over at their place. So we've certainly had these games over the years, and so our coaches, we know them, they know us, their players, all the players know each other these days more than ever, thanks to social media and all that kind of stuff, better than what we used to back in our day.
For sure.
So it's it's definitely one of these things where it's a championship, but it's a little extra to it too.
Well, Coach, we kind of discussed their BC schedule couple over the last few weeks when we were talking about other groups that their non-region schedule was all 4A and 5A teams. Had 2 5A, 3 4A. So they're like you and your team, tested and true. So it's going to be a tough game, and it's going to be a knockdown drag out, I'm sure.
Yeah, so some people, they played a really tough non-conference schedule. You played Burns and Northwestern, AC Flora. The really good football teams there, and so at the highest level right there, and they took their lumps with them, and I think some people were like, oh, well, BC's down this year. Well, I knew better than that. I mean, I knew who they were playing, very good, bigger schools, that kind of thing. That's tough. So, and sure enough, as soon as they get away from them, you see they get the ship righted. Had a win over 5A Chapin, and then of course they beat Airport as well with 4A Airport, and then in the region they've just kind of rolled through region like we have. I mean, defensively they've only given up 28 points in the whole region. So
Had a shutout last week.
That's right. That's right. So they're playing. You know, they survived that gauntlet, and they're playing better football now. And you know, but we you know, I feel like we've been tested too. You know, we've played some good teams. You know, we played you know, Lexington, one of the top 5A teams in the state this year, no doubt about it. You look at who they've beaten. You look at their record. Saluda, one of the top 2A teams in the state. South Aiken took some lumps early, but have righted the ship and winning games in their region now, scoring 50, 60 points a game now that they got into region play. So,
well, they were doing that before y'all played.
They're just winning them now. They've always been scoring the points, I guess.
That's right.
But yeah, so you know, we've had our tests too, and so here we are.
Well, Coach, what kind of defense is Coach Sharpie? You said you've seen them for a number of years. What are they going to throw at you?
Yeah, he's going to be in a 3-4 defense, which that's what he goes to. That's his go-to. That's what he's done for years. We know what they're going to do. That doesn't make it any easier. You still have to go out and execute in it. Our guys still have to be able to block their guys, and their guys are going to have to get off our blocks and play football. So, you know, that's what they'll do. And you know, he may do some different things, you know, to stop the run game, whether he moves his front around a little bit or you know, blitzes and does some things like that. So we know he's certainly capable of doing some different things like that to mix it up.
Well, who on that side of the ball have you seen on film that you're going to have to pay close attention to? I know that BC's not beating these teams, and like you say, only giving up 28 points if they don't have a good defense. So who on that side of the ball might have you a little bit, I'm not going to say nervous because I know you're not nervous, but you're paying close attention to them.
Yeah, no, they got some good players at each level on that side of the football, at the D-line, the linebacker, guys on the edge, their secondary. In fact, some of the same guys that we got to account for over there on that side of the ball are the same ones we got to account for on offense. They have multiple guys going both ways, which, you know, there's two philosophies on that. You know, they want their best players on the field at all times, and we do that a little bit, but not to their extent, not even close. We believe, you know, that two platoon and our guys will be stronger in the fourth quarter. We also believe we can spend more time coaching our guys and do more things with them and coach them up more, because we don't have to necessarily split offense. All right, this half of practice is offense, and that's all we're doing, and then this half of practice is defense. Well, our guys, and so for say if you have a 2-hour practice, he's getting 1 hour of their players are getting 1 hour of offensive practice all season long, you know, each day. Our guys are getting 2. So if our guys are getting more practice time, they will get to be developed more.
Goes back to what Coach Sullivan said last week. Your offensive guys are used to not running hundreds of plays, but running them thousands of
probably
times.
So. Is he's right. It probably is. And you know, so it's two different philosophies there a little bit with how he does things and how we do things, and we both won a lot of games, so it's not necessarily one's right and one's wrong. You know, there's different ways to skin a cat, and but that's kind of how they do things, and it's kind of how we do things. But getting back to some of you guys, you know, one of their outside linebackers, Jaden Johnson, he's a third-year starter for them, so he's been around since he was playing in that COVID game. He's a fast outside linebacker out there, tough to deal with on the edge. And Ezekiel Mays is a safety that's a really good running back. We got to do a good job tackling him. I'm going to tell you that right now. But he flips around and plays safety, and they're always rolling him down into where the action's going to be. So we got to account for him. And you know, it's multiple guys. Their D-line's a good group with some size up front, and linebackers. I mean, they're solid. Like I said, they've only given up 28 points in 4 games of region football. So we got our work cut out for us.
Coach, it does sound like I said, we thought earlier in the season you were facing them big monsters that are on the line. It looks like this is just going to be a whole team of monsters, and it's going to be a knockdown drag out, as we said a few minutes ago. But I've got full confidence you'll have your guys ready, and know you'll be glad to hopefully get Chance back and pull out this region victory and another region championship and get ready to roll into the playoffs on a big winning streak.
Yep. Yeah, we want to, you know, a win be huge. Obviously, we want to win the championship, but it also puts you in a good spot, you know, to make that run at state. That's the next step, you know, is, you know, where we are right now is where with our goals is we're set up right where we want to be and winning a region championship. And And if we accomplish that goal, then that also then helps us more so with our next goal, which is, to go for a state championship, and it does put you at a little bit better path to accomplish that, when you do that, and if we don't, we have to be a 2 seed, then we go at it. But it is a little bit more difficult road, obviously, that way than the other. But so that's one of the many things there we're playing for.
Well, Coach, we'll be right back after these messages to put the Barney Fife spotlight on old Coach Gary Adams, the Gilbert's D-line coach, and look forward to hearing what Coach Adams has got to say. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Gary Adams is with us this week for our coaching spotlight. Coach, this is your first year here at Gilbert, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Well, how many years you been coaching altogether now?
This is my 22nd year.
22nd. You look awfully young to be
Yeah.
22nd year
I get-
coach. I wish
I
I
get it all
looked as
the
good
time.
as you.
Well, my wife and my mother-in-law, they age very well, so I'm trying to keep up with them.
Well, you're doing a fine job. I mean, you look like I thought you were maybe 28, 29. If
Oh,
you've been
I
doing
wish.
this 22 years,
Oh,
there's no
man.
way that's true. So, well, Coach, how'd you get to know Coach Lee Parks?
Well, I knew Coach Leapart when he was. I knew him a little bit when he was at Thurman, but I also knew him. I got to know him pretty well when he was at Swansea. When we were playing him with Coach Woolbright, him and Coach Woolbright were good friends, so I got to know him a good bit during that time. And we played each other several years. Being I was at Batesburg, and we played each other for several years, so I got to know him very well during those times as well.
Well, good. I know he's glad to have you here. Coach, you said you've been doing this for 22 years. Well, let's go back a little bit further. Where'd you go to high school? Where'd you play high school? Did you play any college ball? Where have you coached up until now? You said Batesburg, but where else? 22 years, you've been coaching a lot of places.
22 years. My career started in Central Virginia.
Really?
I went played college ball at Liberty University, and once I graduated, there was some alumni from Liberty that had just got the head coaching job at EC Glass, and I talked with him. Matter of fact, one of my professors actually recommended me to go see him, and we talked, and I spent 5 years up there coaching football up there at EC Glass High School, AAA football in Virginia, and then my wife and I, we got pregnant with my son, and we were about to have our second child, and thought it was better to get closer to home, and I was fortunate enough that Batesburg had a job open, and I was able to move back to South Carolina.
Oh, good. And you were at Batesburg for how long?
I was at Batesburg from 06 till last year as either assistant or head coach.
Oh, so you were there a good many number of years. Well, you on this side of the rivalry now, so we,
Yeah.
like I said, we're glad to have you. So. Well, Coach Lee Park tells me your son's playing here with you as defensive back and had an interception last week, I heard. So, well, Coach, I had the pleasure of coaching my son at a young age in the Little League programs, and it was always, well, I say always, most of the time it was a good thing. I enjoyed it, got to spend extra time with him. How do you handle a time when maybe, I know you coach defensive line and he's a defensive back, but I'm sure you, like I was, always keeping your eye on him. How do you deal with maybe he's not living up to what you are practicing the way you should be or playing? And then, I guess the really hard question is, how do you deal with it after you've dealt with him when you get home and deal with mama?
Well, I try to remember that, he's still my son, and, I do have to go home, and I want to go home and actually sleep peacefully. So
Right.
I get on to him about the mistake, and we move on, and because I'm one of those that, you're playing football. If I get on to you and I stay on to you all night, it's not going to help anything.
Right.
So we get together, and I'll pull him to the side, and I let him know.
Right, yeah.
I'm firm with him. That hey man, you got to do better. You can't make that mistake. And I'll explain to him, and we'll go on just like I do with my D line, and we'll look at what the mistake was and try and correct it before it's time to go back on the field. But and I tell him, I'm your biggest critic because you're my son, and I want to see you be great. And I'm not going to accept anything less than you giving your greatest effort.
Well, that's the way I was with my son. And a funny story, my daughter started playing volleyball. She asked me to help her, and I didn't know much about volleyball. And I went out there, was hitting balls at her, and she about 5 minutes in, she goes inside crying. My son goes, "Why you back in here crying?" "Well, Daddy's being mean to me." And she goes, "Nope, Daddy's making you a better player. You need to go back out there and do it." And that's the same way I'm sure you are. I mean, you're not really making him cry, but you are making him a better player.
Well, and I mean, I coach, my oldest daughter, she's 22 years old, and I coach her with middle school basketball. I was the head middle school girls basketball coach, and she tells them all the time, she kind of helps me out by, "Hey, look, he just wants the best out of you."
Right.
So I was a little bit tough on her, but she ended up being a pretty decent point guard because of that. And now I have a 8th grader. She's at the middle school, and I'm kind of tough on her too. She's probably the one that she receives it a little bit more than the others because I guess she's just used to it now. It's like I've watched it for the first 2, so I'm good to go now.
Well, I'm glad your youngest one's like that. Mine's the complete opposite. She'll tell me to shut up and like that. So. Well, Coach, I know the last week against Trier maybe not as much, but the previous 2 weeks your defensive line was going up some really, really big offensive lines. I know Coach and I talked about those, and last week he was really seeing your D-line's praises and seeing them progress over the season, early on, and then getting to the situation to where they were really standing up those 2 big lines at OW and Lower Richland. That really had to make you proud, I'm sure.
Yeah, I tell you, we have we're a little bit undersized compared to what we've been playing with.
Yeah.
But the kids that I coach have a huge heart. And they have a huge love that they love the game. They're very passionate about the game, and they give extremely great effort. I mean, we have 2 guys that really set the tone with our 4 guys up front. All of them are special, but we got 2 guys that really set the tone. Caleb Streesey, he has been very productive all year long, and Kelvin, I call him Kevin when he's not doing right. It's Kelvin when he's doing right. It's Kevin when he's not doing right. But Kelvin Blackwell, those 2 guys really set the tone for us up front. And then we got guys that between the other 2 that have been starters, Colton Travis and X-Man. Those 2 guys, they really do a great job of filling in. And we've had some guys that have stepped in, as backups and helped out a lot as well. Carson Holman. Jaden has got some reps at rush in, and Jalen as well, and they have come in and helped provide a little spark rush when we need a pass rush.
Well, Kelvin he lived every defensive lineman's dream a couple of weeks ago, didn't he? And now what Coach said, he just took it from the quarterback and took off running.
Yeah, I mean it was one of those. I'm like, please let him score, please let him score. And he slipped through the tackle and got in the end zone. And I told him, I said, "I'm proud of you, big boy. That's a big man's dream right there."
Yes, it is. I'm sure it is. Well, Coach, this is the last question, and when we came up to Coach and I came up with these questions, we always thought this would be an easy one and a good one to close out with, but some of your colleagues say it's the roughest one, and that's in all your years of playing and coaching, what has to be your greatest memory?
Ooh, that is tough. 22 years, that's a long time, and then all those years of playing. Coach, there are so many. I think. Oh man, I don't think I can limit it to one. I guess I can sum it up by just watching the excitement of the kids when they have given everything that they can to be successful, and at that last minute, that you're gonna find success, and just seeing them celebrate. The hard work that they put into it. And when you've been coaching for a while, you watch your kids and you know how hard they work and how much they put into it. And when you find success, just to see that look in their eyes, and how happy and how excited they are about, celebrating the accomplishments from that hard work that they put in. That to me, I mean, as a player, experiencing it as a player and then now seeing it as a coach, that's the greatest joy for me.
I agree. I've gotten to see that joy in kids' eyes before, and to see them light up is I will have to agree. And you're right. You can't pinpoint one because there's just one right after another, and it's a lot of fun. And it's like I said, I know Coach Leapart's here. Glad to have you here, and I'm as a Gilbert alumni, I'm glad to have you here, and we look forward to you continuing to get this defensive line tearing up some people and long run into the playoffs. And we appreciate you coming in and spending time. I know a couple of your colleagues have younger kids, so it might have been a break for you to get away from some of these,
Oh, yeah.
some of these teenagers. You know, like I said, I got one, so I know how it is.
Oh,
So. Well, Coach Leapart, big game this week, back home in Gilbert, America, and any closing comments?
No, I mean, we just want everybody out there that can make it to the game. As you're right, it's a big one. It's for the region championship. Brooklyn Casey, it's really turned into a big rival game too, and then put the championship on the line. So it's what Friday night football is all about, and need all the folks to come out and support us.
Well, look forward to it, Coach Adams. Look forward to seeing you on the sidelines. And
All right.
good luck
Appreciate your
going
time.
forward, Coach Leapart.
Appreciate it.
Good luck.
Yep. Thank you.